Hey, hello friends. Thank you for joining me today for Dan's coffin show. Not really. It is instead Daily Art Adventure number 548. Third session on a big painting. Now we're legal. Thank you for joining me. I am doing a painting here. It's 7 feet 5 inches tall and 45 inches wide. I have a photograph over here that I'm looking at. This is a picture that I took in Flagstaff, Arizona. I'm not doing this painting because it's Flagstaff. I just went through a bunch of my photographs and found one that I liked a lot. And then back here is the latest painting. Happens to be on aluminum. And as I say there in the title, this is day number 3 on this painting. And what I'm going to do right now is push back a little bit some of the energy. In other words, too much energy here, up here in the sky area. Now, too much energy is not usually something that I'm fighting against. You know, energy in the early stages of the painting process, lots of energy. In my book, lots of energy is a good thing. But like everything else, I guess, too much of a good thing. It's not such a good thing. So what I'm doing is doing a translucent glaze of blue, skyish blue, phthalo, that means. Happiness is standing in front of a big canvas. Even if the canvas is white. I don't want to be a discouragement to any of you, because I've heard that people struggle with painter's block, like writer's block. And I absolutely believe that's a common and normal thing. But I've never experienced it. That's right. I don't, you thought I was going to say, oh, we all feel that way. We all have that. It happens to all of us. Well, it might happen to me someday. But so far, in 40 years, it's never happened yet. Anyway, so thank the Lord, that's just one thing I haven't had to struggle with. No, when I stand in front of a bare naked canvas, it's me versus the canvas. Canvas doesn't stand a chance. I'm going to paint that sucker. And I'm happy, man, when I get in front of a blank canvas. Woohoo! That's real living. That's as high as I can reach with that ladder. Now, let's get a little bit more serious here. I appreciate somebody's got John Rope yesterday. If you warned me, or just said be careful. He said I fell off something like that one time. Well, thank you, John. I intend to be careful. Now I can't reach. Now I can't reach my palette. There, I think that's what I wanted to do. Now let's come back down here. Now that I've got a little, this pale, opaque, or translucent, actually, blue paint on my brushes. Don't we want it anywhere else? Yeah, I do. Now, some of you, if you were with me last night, one of the last things I did in this area of the painting down here was I did a yellow-orange, a warm glaze. And here I am doing a blue, not a glaze, this, because it's not transparent, so it can't be called a glaze, but a blue layer. And you might think, well, you just turned it warm. Why are you turning it? Why are you turning it cool again? That's a good description. That's a good question. That's a good description of the way I achieve my color. The color in my paintings is through layers and layers and layers. And one of the most exciting things you can do in painting is do layers or glazes, whichever word you want to use, on top of each other, crossing over the warm-cool divide. In other words, what I'm doing right now is cool on top of warm, warm on top of cool, and so on and so on and so forth. And of course, this layer that I just put down here is not opaque, right? It's translucent. That means we're still seeing the warmth through it. I'll zoom in here just for a second to show you the effect of what that here. So you see the orange was the last thing I did before this, and then I did blue. And of course there's stuff underneath the orange, and there's going to be stuff on top of this blue. But layers and layers and layers. I love the fact that our brain is very hard pressed to identify this as a color. Because in fact we do actually see it as layers. Your eye perceives that that's layers of color, and that's exciting, dynamic, interesting, fascinating, rich, visually rich. And that's, again, what I like, if you will, what I like about my painting technique is that visual richness. Many ways to attain visual richness. One of my favorite words for the painting process in general is richness. That's one way. Need a little bit more white here. And again, so let me repeat. One of the most exciting things you can do is do cool on top of warm and vice versa. Warm on top of cool. Now, back up here in this tree. Hang on just a second. There we go. My iPad was not tracking with this for a minute there. But now we're back in gear. Now I do have a fairly opaque blue paint with white mixed in it, right? That's what makes it opaque. Hey, one of the last things I did last night before I quit, and this was after I turned the camera off, I picked up my latest new toy, which is this product from Charvan. Let me show you the cover. I just saw these in Jerry's Artorama, minding my own business. But I always keep my eyes open for a new something, new trick. Okay, just want to show you. Made by Charvan, well-known maker of oil and now acrylic paints. Anyway, and they're called water-soluble pastel painting sticks. Now, that's kind of funny. I'm not sure what makes them water-soluble. You know, are they different? Because all pastels are water-soluble to an extent. But anyway, I'm assuming there's something different about them. Doesn't matter. It looked like fun, and sure enough, I've been using them a little bit. And after doing a drawing with my black pencils, I came in here and did a bunch of color those pastel sticks. So fun. The art hoard is real. That's right, it is. Okay, so this is, if I'm counting, this is at least the third time that I've done sky holes. And you old timers, you know, the term sky holes is most unfortunate. Now, it just so happens that in this case, I am in fact painting sky holes, but it's an unfortunate term because it should not be called sky holes. It is traditionally, but so yeah, like I said, they did not invite me to the committee meeting, wherever and whenever that committee meeting was held. I was not invited, and they decided to call these things sky holes. They were not English majors. They were art majors, evidently. They should be called tree holes. Holes in the tree. Why? What's wrong with the word sky holes? Well, many, like down here, I'm going to have, down here, what if I do holes in the tree down here? What are those called? It's not sky, it's a building. So those would be called building holes, which is absurd. Building holes. No, it should be called tree holes. Anyway, I digress. The English major in me is rising up again. I'll try to slap her down. But this is the third, the point, really, the real point I'm trying to make is this is the third application of sky holes. And what's the big deal there? Well, how do you paint trees? One of the answers to that question, one of the, maybe the most important, how do you paint trees? The answer is by degrees, by stages, by layers. All three of those words. In other words, you don't paint them all at once. So some people, this goes back to the, you know, the 8-year-old painting a pumpkin. How does an 8-year-old paint? An 8-year-old can paint me under the table. Why? He picks up a big brush, dips in the orange paint, paints a pumpkin. What's so hard? Meanwhile, a real artist like myself is spending hours, days, weeks, months. You get the idea. Why? Because I'm involved in a process. So likewise, a student beginner painter, especially one that, you know, just hears about sky holes for maybe the first time in their career, go, oh, wow, that's cool. And so they paint the tree, and then they come back and paint the holes, and voila, they're done. No. That is not probably not a good way to do it. Let me expand that even a little bit more, away from just sky holes. Sky holes at the moment are just one good example of it. Listen to this. All good paintings are the result of a good process. What's so big about that? Well, again, let me try to put myself in the mind of a beginner, student, wannabe artist. Many times, less mature painters, they think that good paintings are the result of control. I shall pick up a brush. I shall hunker down on it. I shall stick out my tongue. And I'm going to paint this dang thing. Do you follow me? That's not process. That's called a wrestling match. Or a control freak festival. That is not good painting, in my humble opinion. Which may or may not be all that humble. I know. No, good painting is a result of process. I really do believe this. It's layer upon layer, step upon step, stage upon stage, degree upon degree, building up little by little by little. So, right? So the 8-year-old paints a pumpkin, orange paint, circle, he's done. A good artist paints a pumpkin by process, layer, 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 step, 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 process, process, process. And again, in my opinion, all good painters, all good paintings, no matter what style they're in, if it's a good painting, it's because it had a good process. Okay, so back to sky holes. What's the deal? You don't just paint the tree and then paint the sky holes. No, no, you paint the sky, you paint the tree, then the sky, then the tree, then the sky, then the tree, then the sky. Layer, 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 back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Why? Because that creates a rich or interesting texture, color, shape, and so forth. And with each layer or stage, you can get slightly more realistic, more similitude. All right, that's lesson number 1756. But I'm about to demonstrate that here in the trees. Just a minute. I think the very next thing that I'm going to do here on this painting is, in fact, rinse out these brushes vigorously. We have not got all day. Have you ever noticed that there's a tendency among people who are good at things? Have I suddenly called myself good inadvertently? My friend David is going to get on me. There he goes, being humble again. Okay. Okay, yeah, I'm fairly good. But it's funny, people who are good at things. I'm thinking here of a chef. Why does a chef go, what I can't do? He's going to chop something, he takes his big knife, goes, pa 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 pa. Part of the reason is he's a professional. Number one, he's got the skills so he can do it fast. Number two, he's making money. Number three, he's got we don't have time to waste. Let's get on with the program. So there does seem to be a tendency. I don't mean by that if you're a beginner, you ought to force yourself to paint fast. Not necessarily. But as you progress, yeah, there will be a tendency to paint faster than slower. A few comments here. Let me see. Hi, Femox. Good to see you this morning. Sarah, missed day 2. Hey, Mark. Good to see you again. Shandan Ram. Nice to hear you. Bruno, we're all over the country. I mean, all over the world is what I mean to say there. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Nancy Smitherman. All right, so I just did that blue stuff. Puts me in the mood now to come back, and I'm trying to decide what color. I'm going to do one brush in what I call blue-black paint. Just means a very, very dark black. You know what I'm trying to say. And purple. And now I'm going to paint. Looking here, sure. Looking at the photograph. Where does this tree grow out of? Where does it come from? Now, in reality, of course, this traffic sign, this stoplight and this sign are in front of this tree, right? But if I try to paint around it, that's going to cause a real jerk in my motion. So it's a lot easier just to paint it right over, and then before it dries, wipe it off. Okay, let's go a little bit more purpley. Sometimes people ask me, do you use 2 different colors on the 2 brushes? And the answer is yes, most of the time I do. In fact, I have a different color on each brush. Also, I almost always have a different shape brush in each hand. Okay, so there's one tree. The other tree comes right down about here. What am I doing right now? I am messing up. I'm making a mess. Intentional, intermittent messiness is my latest major development in my painting technique. Periodic, intentional messiness. Basically, between every single layer or every single stage of the painting process, I intentionally make a mess. I love it. I did a painting, the one right before this one, a city skyline, City of Raleigh skyline. And you can find it, just Daily Art Adventure number 54234, something like that, where I employed this intermittent messiness quite a bit. And I believe it's my favorite city skyline. And I've done, I don't know, scores of city skylines, dozens of city skylines perhaps. And this is my favorite one, the one I did just finished last Saturday. Because I employed a lot of intermittent messiness. That's starting to look like a tree, isn't it? Don't you think? Before I leave, I'm going to do dark green, kind of a Viridian-ish green. Why? Partly because it's just halfway around the color wheel from the purple. And our eye enjoys variety. Of course, when I say eye, I mean our brain, but you know, the seeing part of our brain enjoys variety. If you haven't heard me say this before, you need to hear it. Here is the foundation to my painting philosophy, and in this case, I do mean philosophy. I don't mean. Sometimes people use that word to refer to like technique or something. No. In this case, I really am talking philosophically. The starting point to why I paint, what I paint, and the way I paint is this. Here it is. Our eyes enjoy seeing stuff. Heavy, huh? Heavy, huh? Deep, man. Farm out. Groovy. Let's all get in touch with our inner hippie. Our eyes enjoy seeing stuff. Might sound really simple, but it actually results in all kinds of things. Like, for instance, given the choice, would our eyes rather see, and I say it this way just to emphasize, would our eyes rather see yes color or no color? Would our eyes rather see more color or less color? All things being equal, which often they're not. That is to say, unless an artist is making a specific visual point about painting a very monochromatic painting, which is fine, lovely. I love doing monochromatic painting sometimes. But barring that, by the way, the only reason a monochromatic painting is especially pleasurable to our eyes is because that painting is placed in a multicolor world. Does that make sense? In fact, let me give you just a word of, what's the word? I judge art shows here and there, here and there, here and there. I'm not a big shot, I'm a little shot. So, you know, I judge, anyway, never mind, mid-level. Local, regional, got two coming up right now. In an art show, so imagine there's 60 paintings in a room. If you will do a good black and white, charcoal, graphite, good, black and white, man, that thing will pop out in the show. Just something worth considering. Anyway, so unless you're doing that, left to its own devices, our eyes would rather see yes color better than no color, or more color rather than less color. And don't be confused by the old less is more thing. That phrase tickles our brain because of its irony, not because of its literalness, because it's an ironic truth. It is true, but it's an ironic truth, not a literal truth. You don't look in the dictionary and say, give me a definition of more. And you'll open the dictionary and it says, more is less. Wow, I thought it was the other way around. Or, do you follow me? You don't look up less in the dictionary and open up, say, definition of less. More means more. Wow. No. Less means less, more means more. And generally speaking, our eyes would rather see more, not less. Oh man, anyway. I'm getting too far deep into that. I'm debating, yeah, I think I am. I was going to say I'm debating going right back to some tree holes. Again, should we start our own little revolution, gang? Should we start our own little revolution against sky holes? Start calling them what they ought to be called, just tree holes? Is it worth, if you hold a revolution and nobody comes, is it still a revolution? Anyway, I'm mixing up a slightly different color here, a little bit of yellow-orange in my phthalo blue, because I want my sky holes this time around to be a slightly different color. So, by the way, what I'm doing right here, if you were here just 5 minutes ago, just when I was painting all these branches with two hands, let's be clear. Absolutely, yes, you should. You should paint trees the way I paint them. I laugh because nobody can paint like anybody else. But anyway, yes, I think you should be influenced by me. Yes. So what I'm doing now is interpreting that mess, that two-handed, fast, branchy thing that I did a few minutes ago. And now I'm looking for things that look like branches, that look like believable branches, and covering up the things that don't look quite so much. See, that's starting. Let me zoom you in here for a minute. Would you not agree that that's starting? We're far from done. We got probably 8 layers to go on this tree yet. But even with that far to go, doggone, it's already kind of looking like a bare tree. Just for what it's worth, I tend to prefer painting bare trees. Isn't that funny? I discovered some years ago, especially in the days when I was doing even more plein air painting than I do now, that I found myself disappointed in the springtime when the leaves started coming out on the branches. It's like, oh no, what a Scrooge-ish. Everybody else is happy because spring's coming out, the birds are singing, the sun's shining, it's warming up, and here's the artist over in the corner pouting. Oh, well, not really pouting. But it crossed my mind. I thought, time here for a good pout, I thought. I'm looking at my painting now. I'm not paying that much attention to the photograph because I really like the traffic, the cars that I was able to throw in here rather quickly with a free hand, so to speak, when I did that aluminum painting, and I would like to keep that feeling to some degree. Okay, but now let's look at the photograph. Yeah, the back windshield of this vehicle has a hint of blue in it. Yep, that looks good. Sure. And then want another definition? Want another pompous definition? Overblown. Here it is. Here it is. Good painting. And I'm struggling to come up with the exact wording for this. It's something like, good painting is one in which, of course, the mind of the viewer finishes the picture, as opposed to the artist finishes the picture. That's not hard. That's not unusual, unique, anything like that. Many hundreds, thousands of painters in my world, in this general realm of what I call abstract realism, would agree with that. Okay, here's the other half of the statement, or no, the restatement with slightly different language. A good painting is one where the mind of the viewer can discern or decipher what it's a picture of. Let me change that. Good painting is one in which the mind of the viewer can discern the subject, can see, oh yeah, that's a Jeepish kind of vehicle. That's a one-way sign. That's a, right? You can identify all this stuff. And here's the, but in the course of seeing the subject, seeing the picture, what it's a picture of, in the course of seeing the picture, the mind, or the eye, the mind has to jump over several extraneous abstract marks. That's a pretty good way to put it. A good painting is one which the mind of the viewer can discern the picture, the subject. But in the course of discerning the subject, the mind has to jump over several extraneous abstract marks. Now, semicolon. But those extraneous abstract marks need to be interesting, attractive. My language, I like interesting best. Interesting, attractive, even beautiful. I wouldn't try to hold up the beautiful word in a room full of philosophers. But basically that's what we're talking about. That the marks are, that the mind has to, I'm using the term jump over. The more marks that the mind has to jump over in order to see the picture, comma, as long as those are interesting, attractive, pleasant to look at marks. Very important caveat. As long as they're interesting, fun to look at marks, the more marks the mind has to jump over, the more aesthetic pleasure the mind will receive, the mind will experience by discerning or looking at the painting. Never said it that way before. Doesn't mean it's good or anything like that, but just I think that gets to it. So what do you see on my canvas? All kinds of extraneous marks. I'll mention this again. I've only been to Oil Painters of America one time. Only got into the national show one time so far. It dawned on me this week, just a quick detour. One of the reasons I think I'm excited about this new season in my career, if it turns out to be that, one of the reasons I'm excited about it is that the times that I have gotten into the Oil Painters of America, it was with a painting that I did in 4 hours or something like that. One of them, the one I got in the national show, it was a painting that I had done as a demo in front of students, in front of a class. Okay, and so part of my thinking is, well, if I got in with a painting that I did in a small amount of time in front of a class, maybe if I actually maybe if I actually work on my paintings, I might do better ones, might even get in again. Anyway, that was not my point. My point was going to be the one time I got into OPA. It is in my opinion, it is the granddaddy of art painting in America. Okay, it's the best. It's the big dogs. It's the top of the pile. Anyway, as I walked around the room, there were 200 paintings. About 2,500 people applied to get in, they told us. But 2,500 people applied to get in, and only 200 got in. So less than 10%. Most of the people that were entering were, like myself, professional artists. Okay. But as I walked around the room and looked at paintings that were better than mine, I did derive an overall impression. And one of the major impressions I got was that, in fact, most of the artists there painted messier than I did. In other words, most of the artists, not all by any means, I mean, there's some photorealistic stuff too, but most of the artists that were in the show had, in fact, more extraneous, abstract marks on their canvas than I do. Think about it. My opinion, they're better than I am. This is a club I aspire to get into. And when I walk around, and by the way, just because it was messier doesn't mean they were good. No. First of all, they were good. They were jaw-dropping. It's like, that was my reaction to most of them. And most of them were messier. So anyway, I think that's pretty interesting, and a part of the reason why I am still aspiring in that direction, to paint in a more accurate and more messy manner. Okay. All right, we back. We are. Thank you for joining me, you guys. Appreciate it. Okay, so generally speaking, I go light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. And in fact, the last thing I did was light. So I'm going to go dark. It's been a long time since I gave you the dance of painting. If you're an artist, write this down. You can watch this over and over. I talked earlier this morning about how all good paintings are the result. I like to sometimes use the word product. All good paintings are the product of good process. And here's a word picture. Well, what is a process? Here's a word picture. I'm going to compare painting to a dance. Not maybe ballroom dancing, but the kind of dancing you have to take lessons for. More like choreography, like the way somebody who's choreographing a Broadway musical and choreographing a dance. Good dance. So that's the analogy I'm making. A good dance consists of big steps and little steps. Light steps and dark steps. Realistic steps and abstract or artistic steps. Obviously, I'm mixing metaphors. Good painting. Good painting. Large marks and small marks. Large marks, small marks. Got it? Light marks and dark marks. Literal marks, that is realistic, achieving the picture similitude. Realistic marks and abstract marks or art marks or expressive marks and so forth. So there, that's all I'm going to say about that. I've talked about that quite a bit. It's time now for dark marks. And there's several parts of this. Thank you, David, for letting me know about the scratchy sound, by the way. I couldn't pick up on it in my ear. So hopefully it wasn't too bad. But thank you indeed for letting me know about that. I unplugged my power. It's the power to my phone that creates the scratchiness. So if I unplug it, scratchy goes away. But if I broadcast too long, my control phone will, of course, stop functioning. So. Okay, so a few minutes ago, again, I gave one of the big foundational, one of these things. I wish somebody had taught me this, told me this 40 years ago. I know I would have been open to it, but I want my paintings to be realistic, accurate. That does not equal, what's the word? Tight. I want my realism to be an outgrowth. I'm going to get my photograph here for a minute. I want my realism to be an outgrowth of an energetic or good process, to use that word again. I'm debating whether the tire compartment on the back of this vehicle, no, I'm going to leave it the way it is. Should it be in the middle or should it be off to the side? I'm debating. I leave it in the middle for now. Yeah, more realistic and more expressive at the same time, or more, and I always hesitate to use the word expressive because of the misperception in our culture that so many people have. Because what they've been told wrong, that the artist is trying to express himself. I think about myself in that regard and go, that is ridiculous. That is crazy, folks. I'm not trying to express myself. Now, here's an irony. Am I in fact expressed through my painting? I am. In fact, yes, I am. But am I trying to express myself? The answer is no, I am not. Boy, and I know you're just slicing it too thin, but to me that's a huge difference. I'm not trying to express anything through this painting. In fact, because I can get really fired up about that. Now, much of modern art is in fact expressive, and I think to the extent that it's an expression, to that extent it's not art. What are they expressing? What are they expressing? Would it be something they believe in? Yeah. Something they believe in passionately? Well, of course, like it goes without saying, right? So what kind of thing are they expressing then? Opinions about things they don't care about? No, things they care about. You should honor them because they're expressing things they care about. No, I don't honor that at all. Every human organism has a right to an opinion, but doesn't mean the opinion's worth anything. So when I go to the doctor to get an opinion about my health, I don't want him to be expressive. I don't want him to be an artist. I want him to be a doctor. When I take my car to a mechanic, I don't want the mechanic to express himself. I want him to analyze what's wrong with my car. If I want a piece of the climate, for instance, I'm not going to go to an art major. I'm going to go to a climatologist. In fact, ironically, Nancy and I, some of our dearest, oldest friends, he now lives in Phoenix. We were with them just 2 months ago. He was in the Department of, what does weather go under? Department of the Interior? I can't remember now. Anyway, the joke is, and technically, in a way, the joke is he was 6 down from the president. You know, like if everybody in the world got killed, he would be number 6 to become president. That's an exaggeration, but it was pretty funny because mathematically it's sort of correct. But anyway, my point is he was very high up meteorologist, very high up climatologist. And he had opinions. I'm not going to tell you what they were, but he had opinions about the subject of climate change, okay? And you can probably imagine, he's one of the highest ranking climatologists in America. Do I trust his judgment? Or do I think his opinion, not trust, do I think his opinion is worth listening to? Heck yeah! do I think his opinion is worthwhile? I do. And, but if I want to know about climate change, am I going to go to an art major? I hope you laugh like I laugh. No, heck no. That's just like the picture of stupidity. Anyway, so, and what I'm ragging on here is art that is conceived to be as self-expression. What they're usually expressing is philosophical political views. And if I want political views, I'm going to go to somebody that is really wise in that area. I'm not going to go to art major. And yet 80–90% of the students graduating with an MFA this spring from a university, their thesis show is going to be chock full of socio-political opinions. And by the way, predictable as the day is long. Just, in fact, in my book on the subject, I'm listing out the 12. I call it the dirty dozen. Here are the 12 topics that are absolutely perfectly safe for any art major to express themselves in. And of course, things like global warming, all feminist issues. What the heck does a person who has skill, of course, that's the first thing, the university, first of all, worked really hard to beat the crap out of any student that had skill so that they no longer demonstrate it. Of course, that's a starting point. Anyway, I digress. I don't want to go down that path any further. I'm going to quit while I'm still in a good mood. But anyway, I care about creating not an impression about me or my opinions. I don't mind giving you an impression about beauty. But if I start going off on some subject I have no opinion about, then I think you have no reason to pay any attention to it. We operate that way in all the rest of life. It's only in art. You know, I'm still talking. Okay, I'll take it this far. I say in my book somewhere, this mythical book that's 400 pages thick, I have pity for all the college students that graduated with a degree in, you name it, history, for sure, history, all the social sciences, psychology, sociology, and they worked hard. They wrote papers, they did research, they stayed up late. I'm just talking about the students that worked hard. History, philosophy, all the social sciences, climatology, all the students, especially if they worked in the sciences and had to learn math and had to work out problems and equations, and it was hard, and they worked hard. They graduated from college. Come to find out, they could have just been an art major and pontificated on all those subjects ad nauseum, and nobody would raise an eyebrow. No. There, does that make the point? I think that is like stupid beyond stupid. Anyway, okay, let's get on to another subject before I get myself grumpy or get you grumpy. Think about it. You don't have to major in all that hard stuff. Just become an art major and you get to pontificate away. And nobody can even argue with you. Why? Because you're an artist. Oh boy. That's stupid. All right. You didn't need any help finding out this morning what's stupid. You already have a list of your own, don't you? Speaking of which, you might wonder, well, what gives you, an artist, the right to have opinions about such things? Well, I'm not saying my opinions are great, but even on paper, my master's degree is in theology. Now, some of you are going, oh, yeah, religion. No. Yeah, if I'm religious, then that's something to gag about. Religiosity, if you make myself clear. I'm quite not religiosified, but a significant portion of my master's degree was history, philosophy. I'll just leave it at that, history and philosophy. And does that make me an expert at history and philosophy? No. It's just I'm the kind of person that would get a master's in history and philosophy and theology and so forth, because I'm the kind of person who's interested. So if I'm not an expert, but I have opinions that might be halfway worth listening to, not because I have the degree, but because I'm the kind of person that would get such a degree. Does that make sense? My degrees don't make me an intellectual. It's the fact that I like thinking that caused me to press through and earn a really expensive, by the way. I don't mean money-wise. I mean, it was 102 semester hours. Figure that out. Do the math. 102 semester hour master's degree. So 3-year master's degree, not a 2-year. No disrespect for anybody that earned a 2-year master's degree at all. But anyway, it was a pretty hefty. Spent 11 years of my adult life earning it. Okay, again, let's get off the philosophy now. So it behooves me, it's important that all the marks that I make, all the extraneous marks in particular, that they are interesting marks. And of course, then it is indeed a lifetime adventure, experiment, struggle to discern what doth an interesting mark make, right? So what's interesting then? That's a good question, and one that I'm still questing after. By no means have I arrived, but I do have a sense that beauty, if I can use that horribly maligned word, lies in this general direction. I'm looking at this vehicle right here, and yeah, I'm gonna redraw it. I feel this is one of the things that I feel like in this new season I'm going to give myself permission to do more readily, because I'm not under a huge, I don't have to finish this painting, unlike most of the paintings I've done in the last 15 years. You know, I'm not pressed to finish it today, for instance. Nope, I can take as long as I want. So I am more open to making corrections or modifications. Who knows if it's a correction? I need to move the tire over as well, move everything. I think it's supposed to be a little bit wider. I was talking earlier about pursuing a style of art that is both more accurate and more messy at the same time, right? That's a paradox. Those are opposites. If you have a lot of one, you should have little of the other, and vice versa. But it does that grid does explain why I am drawn to the art of certain people, and I've mentioned these often, but I'll mention them again for any newcomers that are listening. Richard Schmid, one of the old masters in American painting. Richard Schmid, S-C-H-M-I-D, I believe. Richard Schmid, a young master, a young artist who's all the rage these days. Jeremy Mann, out of San Francisco, and Tibor Nagy, out of, I forget, Lithuania. I should look. I keep doing this. I keep mentioning him, and then I never know. I always forget where he's from. So it's because I don't look it up. So I should look it up. So next time I mention it, I'll be able to speak. If you look at any of their artwork, you will discern this sweet spot that I'm aspiring toward. More messiness and more accuracy. Their drawings are very accurate. In fact, one of those three, I won't tell you which one. Well, it's not Richard Schmid, I'll say that. But one of them I have actually suspected at times, and I don't know if this is the case. I don't think it is. And if it doesn't matter if it is, but I'll tell you that I've suspected that he's actually painting on well, he doesn't paint that big. He's actually painting on top of a photograph. Because some of his drawings are so spot on, and yet it's so messy. Doesn't matter. There are people that do that, and it's okay. It's just a shortcut for achieving similitude, shorthand way of getting realism. The main thing I have against it is not that it's like cheating. The main thing I have against it is that by cheating like that, the artist is in fact, their skill is deteriorating. So the more you rely on tracing, gridding, anything like that, the more you rely on that to achieve your realism, the more your artistic skill, the ability to see and draw, deteriorates. So it's legal. You can do it. I have done plenty of it, and no doubt still will. But I do it always with caution, with an air of like, I don't know if I want to do this because, you know, my skills are going to go downhill if I cheat in this way. And again, yes, the cheating is legal, absolutely. So that's what I mean. I'm cheating is legal. One of the easiest intermittent messinesses, intentional messiness that I do in the acrylic layers is as soon as I put down some light, I guess dark too, but especially light opaque, then run a brush through it real quickly. You get really nice by the way, this suggestion of light coming between some buildings down here and going across the road is not reflected in the photograph at all. That's an invention that came about quite by accident in my aluminum painting over there. One of the good reasons for doing studies, which I have not typically done in the last 15 years. One of the good reasons for doing studies is that nice accidents, thoughts like that can happen. I'm just about to a point where I really need to stand back and look at this painting with fresh eyes. Before I do, though, I'm going to do a little shift. So I've been doing light and white opaque here in the last several minutes, right? I'm going to do a few bits of color, transparent color that are languishing for me, waiting their turn. One is the pedestrian. This man here is going to be wearing a red shirt. He is not at all red. He's wearing a blue shirt in the photograph. He is in the photograph, but it's a blue shirt. But in the course of doing the sketch, red tail light. In the course of doing the sketch, his shirt turned into red, which was a distinct improvement. And then these street lights, the green, I don't mean street lights, the traffic lights here are, of course, green. And at the moment, they're all white. So I'm mixing up some transparent permanent green light and some kind of viridian green. Let me see. I keep calling it viridian green. Let's see what they call it. They call it permanent green. I would question their choice of tone. This is essentially the acrylics I use are a student grade acrylic. Doesn't bother me a bit because of the way that I use them. Student grade paints are perfectly fine as long as they are light fast. You do need to watch out for that. Don't ever use a paint that's not light fast. But barring that, nothing wrong with using a student grade paint. It usually just means less pigment content. And in this case, that's perfectly fine with me. All right, I'm going to take a break because I need to stand back, literally, go out there in the driveway, turn around and look at this, and decide where to go from here. I guess that's it. My voice trails off in confusion. All right, thanks for joining me. I'll be back in just a few. Oh wait, let me look at your comments, see if I missed any. Oh, some good chats here. Let me pull them up. David, my friend, says the camera is messing up in some way, crashing. Really? Time to look at the mirror. Oh, he says I need to look at this in the mirror. Not a bad idea, David. I'll do it. I'll take a picture. Harrison Holt says, as an art major currently, I can say this is true. Many, not all of my teachers, care a whole lot more about my artist statement. That is exactly right. Whew. The only artistic skill being demonstrated in the contemporary section of your local art museum is the English major journalism expressed in the artist statement or the description on the wall next to the painting. The painting demonstrates socio-political skill. Otherwise, it wouldn't be on the wall. the artist, quote unquote artist, has discerned like this, which way the wind is blowing, and has figured out what to do. But most of the time, they're not demonstrating any real art skill. Bless you, Harrison. I'll let you decide what to do about that. Julia, interesting comment. Becoming an artist is very heartbreaking in the process. I live in a small town. It's hard because no one believes in me, and not only that, but also they're trying so hard to make me give up. And that's why we have the internet. Go, Julia. Be encouraged, my sister. Be encouraged. Don't give up. Bless you. You're very welcome. Glenn Carr says, yeah, you can't catch them all live, but they stay on YouTube, so you can go back and watch them from years ago. Of course. Oh, good, David, give me some research. If it's a Honda, it's to the right side or the passenger side or the center. Thank you. But center is okay, right? I think it is. Thanks for looking that up or knowing that for me, David. I appreciate that. I love it when you guys talk to each other. So Mark Toomey encourages Julia, do not give up. Believe in yourself. Amen. That's right. Looks good. Thank you. Which paintings have you not saved because you cherish them? I'm not sure I understand the question. Sounds like a good question. Any paintings I've not saved because or is it paintings I've kept because I love them instead of selling them? The answer is none. Every painting I've ever done is for sale. Give me money, give me enough money, and I'll give you the painting. Oh, there she correct. Which paintings have you not sold because you cherish them? And the answer is, well, I guess. Okay, 30 years ago, I did a pen and ink and airbrush illustration of a fantasy scene, which had my children in it. And yeah, that's not for sale. So there you go. That's just about the last one. But even if you offer me $20,000, $25,000, $30,000, let's talk. There's no question I'm a mercenary. Thank you guys. Fun to have your chats. I'm not going to be long. I'm going to be back in 10 minutes probably. Again, just to get back from this and take a look at it, sort of regroup, think about what needs to happen. And I'll be right back in the saddle in a few minutes. Hello, gang. Welcome back. So that 10 minutes, as you can see, sorry about that, turned into more like 30. My wife surprised me with a nice lunch. So two real simple things need to be done to this painting. One is I need to add purple to all of the shadow areas. And yes, I'm looking for reference here quite a bit at my my study, the 10 by 20 inch, roughly, whatever, over there, done on aluminum. That's way back there. Do you see it? So there's the study, there's the photograph, and here's the finished painting. It's telling me quite a bit about where I want my lights and dark zones. All right, now it's up on the ladder time. I'm using straight, dioxazine violet probably is what this color is called. I don't know. Yes, trying to be fairly careful. Dang, I have to get up one more step. I'm sorry, you probably can't even see what I'm doing up here. Sorry about that. I'm up painting in the clouds. I realized when I was looking at it too that my the top corner, top right corner up there needed to be pushed back, vignetted, darkened a little bit. So I've done that right there. The next thing I'm going to do after this purple is yellow orange on the much of the light area of the painting. Avi, you know what I'm doing, buddy. I'm painting. I'm painting. That's the 2-year-old. Cute as something. I don't know what. This is nothing much cuter. Pretty funny. Yeah, we have 4 grandchildren and their parents living with us. Love it, but it is quite the adventure. Ages 2, 4, 6, and 8 at the moment. Add a little bit of ultramarine to that purple, just for some variety. Where do I want that now? Somewhere that needs darkening. This distant hill can use a little purple in it. Now what about way up there? Yeah, I'm gonna go back up to the top here. A little more medium. Okay, going up again, and darkening the upper left corner just a little bit. Just as a minute ago I darkened the upper right, I'm going to likewise darken the upper left a little bit. In the world of transparent colors, purple is your darkest color. Painting in transparent colors is slightly different from painting in traditional opaque mixed colors. Traditional oil painting, which is mixing, actually traditional in the last 100 years, not traditional in the last 500. I am painting in a manner more in sync with traditions of the last 500 years, but not in the last 100 years. Anyway, so traditional opaque, that's 2 words, opaque and oil-opaque. Traditional oil-opaque painting, excuse me, you don't have to move. There. Okay, I think I'm done with that. The colors are different when you mix transparent. I learned this originally 35 years ago, maybe 30, 35 years ago, when I discovered Maxfield Parrish. At least that's when the light bulb came on for me. Put this tray away and go get a different one. In the world of transparent color, you don't use red. If you want, and of course, the 4-color printing process reflects the same exact principle. In the world of transparent, red is replaced by magenta. That's why 4-color printing process uses magenta, not red per se. This is magenta. Actually, it's called carmine. Carmen?
Where's my passport?
And in the world of transparent color, the blue that you use is phthalo blue, or in printing language, it's process blue. If you're an artist, you wonder, well, what color is process blue? The answer is essentially phthalo blue. Yellow is yellow, but when it comes to oil or acrylic painting, most yellows are quite opaque. So you have to be careful. You don't want to slap down a yellow and pretend that it's transparent, because if it's any kind of cadmium yellow hue, lemon yellow, what are some of the others? I'm drawing a blank, but anyway, any yellow color like that, it is not transparent. It's quite opaque, so you have to watch out for that. The other thing I will point out is that, I'm not sure if this is true of all colors, it's certainly true of yellows, that as you thin them out as you make them more transparent, they grow cooler. So in other words, a yellow that you might mix or apply to your canvas in a fairly opaque manner, it will look, yellow, even warmish yellow. But as you thin it out, it gets cooler. That is leaning toward the chartreuse green end of the spectrum. Do you follow me? So very important. And of course, you can learn all this just by keeping your eyes open and noticing what color you're making. But many times, like in a class, when I'm teaching a class, I say, okay, get out your yellow and paint a glaze here. And I'm using a very, very, very warm yellow. And many times my students, thank you, will UPS man, my students will break out their yellow and plaster it down, and it's crazy cold yellow. And some of you might be confused by that. Cold yellow? There's no such thing as cold yellow. Yellow is warm. Well, oh boy. Okay, should we go down this? Yeah, let's do a quick color theory, shall we? I don't do color theory very often. You have noticed, I hope, that in the world of color, there are essentially two warms and one cool, right? Red and yellow are cool. You with me? I wish if I had a diagram here, if I could draw it, okay, it'd be a wheel, right? 2/3 of the wheel is warm. 1/3 of the wheel is cool, right? Blue is cool, and yellow and red are warm. Now, boy, if I've had, by the way, we are in this conversation, let's be clear, we are not, strictly speaking, in physics class, okay? So in physics class, we're not talking about the visible light spectrum with yellow at one end, or actually infrared at one end, and ultramarine at the other end. We are not in that subject, okay? We're in art class, not physics class. More like chemistry than physics. Don't be confused. Because violet, right next to ultraviolet, may be the coolest, considered the coolest color. What is it, shortest wave pattern? Is that right? red is long, blue is, I don't know. Anyway, it's one of you physics people. Doesn't matter. We're not in that class, however. We are most decidedly in art class, or closely related to physics, to chemistry. I don't mean physics. We're closely related to chemistry class. Okay. So there are two warm colors and one cool color. The two warm colors are yellow and red. I'm assuming there's no disagreement there. I have had people over the years disagree with me, and it's quite fascinating, quite a fascinating study. Here's the biggest confusion is confusing physics, the color spectrum. So I'm not talking to you color spectrum people, I'm talking to you artist people. Okay, two cool, two warm, one cool. Two warm, one cool, there we go. All right, so the question could be raised, which is warmer? Yellow or red? Well, I'm not going to answer that question just yet. There is a right answer to that question. But color wheel, blue over here, that's the coolest, is blue. Straight across from blue is what? It's a triangle. Blue. Orange. There you go. Orange is warmer than either of the two. Orange, if you just have primary and secondary colors, red, yellow, blue, orange, purple, green. I'm not sure I did my hands on the right, but you got the idea. If all you have is primary and secondary colors, real easy. Blue is coolest, orange is warmest. Now, let's ask the question, but which is warmer, generally speaking? Red or yellow? All things being equal, they aren't always, but all things being equal, the answer is yellow. Therefore, is orange, perfect orange, the warmest color? The answer is no, because yellow tends to be slightly warmer than red. So in my opinion, and I'm pretty committed to this, I'm willing to consider arguers, but you better know your stuff and not just be blowing smoke. The warmest color is yellow-orange. The warmest color is yellow-orange. Now, let's go back from there to blue. What is straight across the wheel, color wheel, from yellow-orange? The answer is blue-violet, or purplish, in other words, ultramarine blue. You should understand, again, this messes up people who only had high school art, right? Because you were taught, hopefully, rightly, that there are warm colors and cool colors. You need to understand that there are warm yellows and cool yellows. Now that just throws some people like, what? There's no such thing as... Relatively speaking, some yellows are warmer, some are cooler. It's real simple. The warmer yellows are the ones that tend toward the orange side of the yellow. You with me? Hang on. And the cooler yellows are the ones that tend toward the greenish side of the spectrum. Okay, you with me? Again, I should have a wheel here. There's warm yellows and cool yellows. The warm are orangish, the cool ones are greenish. And for those of you who are beginners, if you have a cad yellow, let me see if I've got one here. I don't. Oh yeah, I do. Here we go. Lemon yellow. You should not even think of this as a yellow, because it'll screw you up every time. You should be, in your categories of your mind, you should be thinking of this as green. This is such a cool yellow, and it's just a typical cool yellow. It tends toward green. And if you slap some of this on your canvas, thinking you're warming up your canvas, you're kidding yourself. You are not warming up your canvas. You're putting freezing cold yellow on it. Some of you didn't know there's such a thing as a freezing cold yellow. Well, there is. Here it is, a whole bottle of it right there. Can you see what, I don't know if you can see what color. It's just a cad yellow light. And I don't use cads, you know, but cad yellow light imitation. Close enough, okay? I'm rescuing some of my unused paint here. So there's warm yellows and cool yellows. There are warm reds and cool reds. It's real simple, right? Once you understand where true north is and true south, yellow orange is warm, yellow orange is the warmest, purple blue is the coolest, then the answer is whichever color goes toward one of those two poles. So there are warm and cool reds. Real easy. The red that tilts a little bit toward the purple, like a carmine magenta, that's a cool red. Scarlet Lake. No, I'm sorry. Naphthol crimson. It's a alizarin crimson, totally. Permanent rose is a freezing cold red. Some of you didn't know that there's such a thing as a freezing cold red. Well, now you do. There's a warm red, cool red, and what is a warm red? Tends toward the orange. Makes sense. Once you know exactly where north and south is, or whichever we want to call it, it's real easy. Which red tends more toward orange? That's a warm red. So Scarlet Lake is what I meant to say earlier. What about cad red? The thing about cad and cobalt is they're right dead center red and blue. That's why they're so popular with most painters. I don't use them. Don't need them. My reds are permanent permanent rose. If you're in a blue and you start going a little bit toward the greenish yellow end of blue, what is that? Phthalo blue. It's a warm blue. Likewise, cool blue is tending toward purple, ultramarine. So ultramarine is your coolest color, and yellow orange is your warmest. There. That was a long, I had to wait for this to dry anyway. What next? I think I'm going to do my last layer of white. I almost always do white last before I proceed. Let's see if there's any comments here. Mark, night shift, yeah, man. Have I ever gone through my entire process with oils exclusively? Not I do sometimes do paintings entirely in oils. The correlation to this is that I start my oils very thin, and then and transparent. Whereas in acrylics, I paint white to get the white. In oils, I use a rag and lift out. Say, and then so yeah, I proceed from then. That's as close as I get to doing the whole thing in oils. Thank you, guys. Interesting, good comments. All right, so it's time for white again. I'm wondering about bringing a tray over. Yeah, I will, I think. So that I can do warm white if I want to at any point. So I don't mix, of course, I don't mix a medium, don't mix an acrylic medium with my white. That would just be a waste of both the white and waste of the medium. By the way, my tea is certainly steeped by now, so hang on just a second. Let me get my tea out here. See if it's too hot. Almost. All right. And I'm fairly far into the process, so I'm going to use some smaller, short-handled brushes. Again, my technique is by no means unique in this regard. I am, in fact, mixing up a warm yellow right now. It by no means unique in that my technique proceeds from large brushes to small brushes. Here even using a little knife, plastic plaster knife, is what I'm trying to say. Zoom in here a little bit. As long as I remember to zoom out again. That's the danger about zooming in, is that I forget and move on to other things off camera, and that happens way too often. So obviously this is one way. This is this sign, this lettering here is a good example of how to paint words or letters in your painting. The biggest mistake that I see students falling into is that when they start to do words or letters in their painting, they cast off the spirit of good painting and pull on the spirit of penmanship. I'm using funny language just for fun to make the point, okay? No, 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 you have to stay in the realm of painting. You do not slip into penmanship. It's that intermittent, intentional messiness. I'm going to pick up some of the blue paint I had over here on this other tray earlier, so that I can mix different kinds of white. By the way, I do understand that when I talk, when I'm talking painting, I used to think that I was able to talk and paint at the same time. I have since discovered that not really. My speech is halting, stuttering, slow. There's no different. There's no. See, I can't even say this right. There's no question. My speech is hampered when I'm trying to paint and talk at the same time. And I'm assuming you guys just are willing to put up with that, or some are. Hey, I noticed I got 2 thumbs down today on my video. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. I don't. Maybe I should take it to heart. Maybe I should feel humble. Maybe I should feel rebuked. Nah. I was watching a video with my grandchildren the other day. You know, I think it was in early in the morning. It was too early in the morning to be a good grandpa, and I was the only one up with 2 of the kids. So I went on YouTube, projecting it on the TV, you know, in the room, and I think I pulled up Lego movies, and on YouTube there's a whole bunch of people that have done their own homemade Lego movies, and it was actually quite entertaining. And as those of you who are parents, you know, it's quite nice when you can find a thanks, VMOX, I appreciate that, telling me not to worry about my halting speech too much. So we were watching a whole bunch of little short videos, and one scene, I mean, some of it is really good humor. One scene was one of the bad, evil Lego characters. And of course, in the Lego movies, there's no well, I don't know. There was no speech. It was all, at least most of these, it was just pantomimed out. Anyway, they had the evil Lego character sitting there at his computer. And he was going like this. And every time he went like this, a thumbs down, you know, appeared over his head, and he was going, and he was just going through. For some reason, that struck me as so funny. So if you wonder what I think about those 2 thumbs down, it's actually surprisingly rare for me to get thumbs down. But just in case you wonder what I think about that, I got one of those guys. Just, making the world a better place. Oh, that tickled my funny bone. Oh, my goodness. We will know, won't we? We will know that humanity, I'm going to get philosophical and weird on you for a minute. We will know that humanity has evolved to its next, shall I say, next layer of consciousness. When the screwball yahoos on the internet, when comments, YouTube comments and so on and so forth, start to become, what? Sane. It's just, when I was a kid, we had ill-mannered, dysfunctional, sociopathic creatures, that's what I'm calling them, among us, didn't we? We had bullies. I was telling my kids about the bully at my school. His name was Willis Orman. What a great name. What a great name for a bully. And his name struck terror into me and to every kid in town. He was this kid that was in 3rd or 4th grade, but he'd flunked 2 or 3 times, And he was just strong as a gorilla and mean as a snake. I grew up, got married my wife I grew up in Michigan. Married a woman from North Carolina. Went to one of her first family reunions, sitting there underneath. And they said, and this is my, second cousin, once removed, or whatever. I'm being silly. Willis Orman. I looked at him. I hadn't experienced that pang of terror for a good 40 years at that point. No, 20 years. I was young, wasn't I? No, it wasn't him. I did look. I looked at him really carefully. In fact, I asked him if he ever lived in Michigan, because he looked a little bit rough around the edges. This new cousin did. Anyway, as a kid, we had bad people, but the bad people didn't have a doggone computer sitting in their lap where they can wreak havoc on the whole civilized world. Thumbs down. So yes, I believe the day will come when the human race, when even the naughties in the human race will come to realize that is not a productive mode of living, shall we say. All right, I'm going to get off that. That was fun. Thumbs down. So if there's anybody watching who thumbed down my video, screw up yours. I could care less. You're a blight on society. I laugh at you. Oh man. I'm not being very nice, am I? Dan, my wife says, you should be nicer. These people are wounded. Deeply wounded. Hey, can I let you in a secret? I don't usually divulge this side of my life all that much. I mean, you could figure it out if you do some real research, but I used to be a pastor, like of a church. You know what I mean? One of those. One thing that pastors are supposed to be above all is nice. Now you know I'm not a pastor anymore. Oh man, I'm so glad to be an artist. Now my wife, she's a real, she is a real pastor. She is really nice to, well, most of the time. Anyway. I'm gonna let that stay right there. Oh, thumbs down. Well, Pastor Dan would like to tell you, screw you. You're a blight on the human race. But that's all right. Your days are numbered. You are being phased out, my friend. Oh, my theology. I'm not going to get down too far, but my theology is extremely positive, by the way, extremely optimistic, extremely optimistic. If you want to know what I really think, the answer is I think God is winning, not by being taking this, but by love. Anyway, love wins. Sure enough. And I didn't learn that from the book of that title. I learned it from much deeper ways. Anyway, so. Oh, forgive me. Just don't forgive me too much. That'll make me have to start behaving. I can't handle the pressure. All right. I need some bigger brushes. Oh, drop that brush right in the wet paint. That's so come to me with all your pastoral needs. I like the old Bob Newhart. Do you remember Bob Newhart? I'm talking to old people now, I know. Oh my God, well, he was a psychologist, right? A counselor. There's one episode where everybody that comes in and tells him all the tragic, dysfunctional, stupid things they're doing in their life. Do you remember this one? And he says, "Stop it." That's all he says. "Stop it." And they're all confused, like, "Well, what do you mean?" "I mean, stop it." Yeah, that's my kind of pastoral counseling right there. Stop it. Oh, man. It's not working for you. Stop it. Artists don't have to be particularly nice. This is obvious to me. That means it's a field in which it's not very hard to stand out. Because so many artists are not particularly nice. You just be a little bit nice and think, oh, he's the nicest guy for an artist. Whew. Here's another old joke. Okay, so those of you who didn't grow up in any kind of church life, you haven't heard it, but many of you who did. So, back in the day when I was a pastor, I was a good guy, right? Because you have to be a good guy when you're a pastor. Although, by the way, those of you who are all bent out of shape about all kinds of pastoral abuses, yeah. That is outrageous, the exception. Pastors are not they're not worse than everybody else. Probably on the whole better than most. But anyway, that doesn't matter. But anyway, some of you are so twisted and you've been so damaged by pastors, you think that all pastors are screw up. So no, just some of them are. It's like everybody else. But anyway, I was good, right? As a pastor. Well, and the joke is, well, I was paid to be good, right? Because they were paying my salary. I was paid to be good. The joke's not over yet. Pastors are paid to be good. The rest of us are good for nothing. There. That is an old joke. Get it? Good for pastors. Yuck. Anyways, I'm very, very happy being a pastor too, but I'm frankly happier being an artist. I think I can do more damage as an artist than I ever could as a pastor. Speaking with an ironic tone there. Yeah, where's my small brush? Here they are. Yeah, the ones that I dropped in a pile of paint a little while ago. I'm loving my new music system. Those of you who might have missed, I was talking about it a little bit yesterday. So it's a prescription service. I pay a certain amount every month to be able to stream their music, and I don't get copyright dings from YouTube. Pretty cool. And then I've been going and clicking on the song, or selecting my own playlist. Anyway, so it's working very well. I don't really need music to paint with, but I find it helps keep me settled down just a little bit. And you guys are saying, you mean this is you settled down? I'd hate to see a wired. Yeah, you would. It also keeps me from getting earworms, songs stuck in my head. These are little balconies on these upstairs windows here on the famous Hotel Monte Vista, yeah, in Flagstaff, Arizona, right on the corner of Route 66 and Main Street, Flagstaff. A lot of fun. I was talking earlier about painting letters, and I said, don't slide into penmanship, right? It depends a lot on the exact size of the letters. Like, obviously, those letters up there are quite a bit larger than this. These two are about the same size. But at this size, excuse me, I would say generally your target should be something like this, that people cannot read the letters at first glance. You only want second glancers, if I can use that term. You only want second glancers to see what the word says. If first glancers can read it, you've made it too neat. Now, I know that that's not a scientific analysis, but that gives you a general parameters for how realistic do you make those letters. And of course, it's way more important that you make interesting marks than it is that they be legible, readable. That goes without saying. VIS. My favorite mistake when I'm doing letters is to misspell the word. VIS. VI. See, I had to think about what letter comes next. That's just about right there, I think. Except that I need now to mess that up before it dries. Get up here with a dry brush. See, much better. And by the way, that little step 1, step 2 that I just did is a great tip for a lot of things in painting. Anytime when you have to paint carefully, like, you know, I wanted to be the correct letter, so I was a little bit careful. Be careful, so to speak, do the careful thing, then follow up immediately thereafter with some kind of mess. Unneatify your neatness. I find that is especially helpful with things like figures. I got three figures in this painting: man, woman, man on bench, man crossing the street. Influenced by those, actually all exist in the photograph. In the photograph, there's 2 men on the bench and there's another man back here, but so I don't need those. Anyway, so when you do figures, you have to be, to a large degree, that's one of those things you can't get wrong, right? The anatomy has to be correct. It can't be somebody with a great big balloon head or short legs or short arms. No, none of that. None of that will fly. It has to be fairly accurate. So many times when something has to be accurate, you tend to paint it in a more careful manner, which just makes sense, right? Aspen Avenue, here we go. So much like I'm doing right here, it's not figures now, it's letters again. So I'm being a little overly fastidious. That's what you do when you do figures. You have to be a little fastidious, a little bit careful. Now, you notice, I don't mean by that I'm on the picture? There we go, sorry. By the way, so I'm not holding my brush like this, sticking up my tongue. I'm not anywhere near that fastidious, but still more fastidious, more neat and careful than I would like to be. That make sense? Therefore, you do the fastidious thing, you do the neat thing. Whoops, that was a mistake. And then I didn't realize that brush was dirty. And then you come back and mess it up. Now, hang on just a second. I'm not going to panic. In fact, I'm not even going to just get all angry and erase that entire streak. There might be some good stuff happening there. Yep, very good. Okay, so anytime you have to paint overly neat, if you have to, then do it and then just follow it up with intentional messing. I remember several years ago, when I really learned that, I was painting a streetscape and I had a man and a woman walking down the sidewalk, walking away from us. And of course, I spent way too much time, energy, and attention getting those figures right, because they had to be. That you just can't have figures that are wrong, right? So, and this was in the oil stage of the painting. As soon as I finished, I sort of stood back mentally and looked at those figures and said, oh, doggone, this is before I knew this principle, or knew this trick, not a principle, trick, before I knew this trick. And so I just picked up something, I don't remember what, finger, rag, brush, who knows what, and just rubbed it through that man and that woman pretty quickly, and voila. I had what I needed, which was accurate anatomy and loose rendering. So I've used that trick many, many times since then. Let me point out another principle that you see me acting upon here, have over and over and over. Just in the last 40 minutes, but I haven't said anything about it. Let me say something now. The principle is human beings would rather see a graduation than a flat. I don't mean by this graduating from high school. I'm talking about a gradation of color, of value, from light to dark, okay? Why? Because graduations are more interesting than flats, right? Hang on, before this gets too dry, let me mess that up. All right. Let me just point out some of the places where I've done this. One-way sign, light, fading to dark. No parking sign, light to dark. Car, light to dark. Aspen Avenue sign, light to dark. Sign up there, dark at the top, coming down light. Do you see that? So I haven't mentioned it, but I'm doing it everywhere, and in fact will continue to do so. Anything that's flat, don't make it flat. Don't let it stay flat. Make it a graduation. Make it fade from dark to light, or light to dark, whichever way you like to say it. The name of my music service, by the way, for anybody who's perhaps interested in doing a similar thing, is called Epidemic Sound. I pay $15 a month, and so far I'm really enjoying it. Not having to worry about copyright, because it's all paid for. Anytime that, by the way, just for anybody who may be curious, anytime that I'm painting without your company, and I'm not broadcasting, I'm almost always listening to podcasts. History, philosophy, science. That's just the kind of guy I am. A lot of history, a lot of philosophy, a lot of science. Whoops, thank you for reminding me to zoom out. I think, let me step back for a minute. Excuse me, I need to see how this is looking. Okay, not bad, not bad. Yeah. So, a quick word about composition. I mean, I've talked about composition until I'm blue in the face, but I'll give you the guiding principle on this particular painting. I have 4 different categories, 4 different ways to think about composition. The second of those, which is what is guiding this painting mostly, is the major light or, one or the other, light or dark area of the painting should be describable with one word. That's what's operating here. And again, it's very simple. This is just one way to think about composition. There's several others. I talked about that. I'll talk about it again, but not today. Let's just talk about one. And it's either a backwards L or a J. Here it is. The dark shape in this painting is this. Either a backwards L or a capital J even. Okay? Right? That's the ruling, that's the overarching compositional thinking with this particular painting. Now, inside this large shape, there are some light bits, of course. There's going to be a real bright green light right there. And this. The idea here is, though, that this is small enough that it's not, your eye still perceives of this as one gigantic shape. This is too small to violate it. But that's a judgment call. You have to decide now, this plus this, plus this. So now this is close to where the J, the capital, the dark area, is going to run into light stuff up here. So this will probably won't be a problem. Let me point out way up here in this corner, and I worked through these issues in my studies, the studies that I did. In the photograph, these little balconies here, they're like little faux balconies, like France, you know, with wrought iron and a little concrete thing that comes out, curves out. In the photograph, these are quite light, like almost white, like wee, 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 wee. But it would be a mistake for them to be too bright here. It would be too much busyness. I did a broadcast several weeks ago when I was doing this sketch. I called it the power of the power of subservient values. That is, all the values in here need to be subservient to the major overarching thing. And by the way, the same thing here. If I find that this is too bright in the oil stage, I'll push that back. It'll still look like a white sign, you know, black and white sign, but it'll be pushed back, and so forth. But just want to, again, for those of you who may be new, that's the thinking here. And let me move over now and do this. What does it say? No left turn. Sometimes people, I've had the question, something like, well, did you put all those signs in the painting because they are there? In other words, do you feel obligated to be, are you bound to realism, so to speak? It's not the language they use, but that was the idea. It pertains more often when I'm doing a landscape or a cityscape of some kind, and I will include power lines, telephone wires, and people will say, you know, did you do that because it was there and you feel like you have to be realistic? I hope you can hear the answer is no, 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 no. I do not need to be realistic at all. No, I do it because I think it adds to the painting. You know, the universal answer we're discovering with grandchildren in the house. Bigka, my name is Bigka. Bigka, why'd you do that? Why'd you do that? And I've discovered that for an artist, the answer is always the same. No matter what they're talking about. Bigka, why'd you do that? Why'd you do that? And the answer is always, because I think it's going to look cool. Because I think it looks cool, or because I think it's going to look cool. Either one. Make sense? Why do you do that? Why do you, so what was I just talking about? Whatever it was. The answer, why'd you do that? Because I think it's going to look cool. Either because I think it does look cool, but as an artist, you have to admit that you're actually trying to predict the future. You're going to say, I think it's going to look cool. Moment here to sit down a little bit and paint. That's a rare treat. And here again, I'm putting this woman in a white coat that comes down to her, halfway down her hips, you know, a short length coat. I don't know what you call that, which is very typical. Am I doing that because that's in the photograph? And my answer is a hearty heck no. No way. I'm not doing that because that's in the photograph. It just happens that I looked at the photograph and go, oh, that's a nice pose. And in the photograph, she's gesturing with her left hand, like as if she's pointing over her shoulder. I'm not doing that. I'm going to have her holding like a stack of books or a package in her hand. See, this is her elbow. This is her hand coming around here. And again, doesn't matter. Again, my point is, why am I doing that? And the answer is the grandpa answer, because I think it's going to look cool. And then the man right next to him, next to her, I mean, in the photograph, he's wearing a purplish blue shirt. Not in my painting. Not in my painting, you don't. In my painting, he's going to be wearing red. Why? All together now, class. Why is he wearing red? Because I think it's going to look cool. Exactly. And I got that from my study, the last study. Again, I did 3 sketches of this subject. I did, he had short sleeve shirt on for a minute there, but no. So yeah, it was during doing the first couple sketches I did, he was wearing blue, the way he is in the photograph. And it suddenly dawned on me with the 3rd sketch. I said, I bet that'll look better. I bet it'll look cooler, more interesting if I put a red. And as soon as I did it, it's like, yeah, red, that is the color I want. By the way, I love teaching. This the art of putting figures in landscape paintings. And of course, much of what you see me doing here is tricks that I've learned. How do you paint figures in a painting? The answer is, same way you paint trees, the answer is in stages, in layers. Layer 1, layer 2, layer 3. There's a man sitting on the bench. That's probably close enough for now. I do paint my figures in a way, very much the way I paint my trees. Light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, back and forth. Negative painting. Like right now, I just painted the space between that man's legs a little bit. And I am not in a hurry to nail down the exact anatomy of people, especially one that's this far away. I'm willing to play with it and mess with it, keep messing with it until something emerges that looks believably humanoid. And I don't mean by that looks bad. No, I mean that looks like a perfectly proportioned anatomy human being without getting fastidious. And one good thing about, of course, doing pedestrians is that normally pedestrians are moving. So in fact, you want to give the impression that they're moving. And the best way to do that, far and away, the best way to indicate movement is fuzzy, soft edges. So you don't want the hard edges. You want that they look static if the edges are hard. So now that I've got some slightly opaque red on my brushes right now, so let's do some of the red stuff that's in the painting. I took my my aluminum study, the little painting over there on aluminum. I took it with me. Whoops, sorry, Michael. Thank you, sorry about that. Right. I wish I could hear you guys. I wish there was a thing that would let me know. Maybe we'll work on that. We'll get auditory feedback eventually. That would be fun. Sorry about that. I took my little sketch, my painting on aluminum, to my painters group the other night. And there's some really good artists in that group. And got some good feedback. It was quite positive, which is always nice. But, you know, it just confirmed some things. You know, be careful to do this. Watch out for that kind of stuff. Good stuff. I hope you have a painters group you can belong to. I hope to start an online painters group eventually. That's on my sort of longer list of hopes, goals, dreams with my online, so that actually you guys would, or whoever, would email me a photograph of your painting. I would try to tweak it in Photoshop and then print out a small version of it on canvas. Then we would all have a live call-in, and I would give critiques, friendly but honest critiques, according to each artist, each personality, and then actually literally paint on the copy that I printed off my printer. And so that would be fun, wouldn't it? Well, it sounds like fun to me. There certainly are some painters around that if they offered that kind of service, I would sign up. If you happen to be watching, let me know what you think about that. It would be a paid, you know, prescription kind of arrangement. All right, I'm going to stand back and look at this. I've been painting and jabbering for quite a while here. Yeah. Generally, fairly happy with what's going on. And the question is, am I ready to proceed to oil? Not quite. I want a few suggested height. Now, again, I'm doing something sort of unusual here. Most of the time, in the acrylic stage, all of the colors are transparent. But here I am doing opaque, really translucent. But anyway, not transparent for sure. So, little twist. And I think that is partly because of the size of the canvas. Doing this is just a bit of a shortcut, speeds things up just a little bit. So now I'm using a fairly dark, dull brown ochre. I'm looking at the photograph quite a bit. So, foundational principle, I started to say a long time ago, a couple hours ago. Foundational philosophical principle for my painting, and I do mean philosophical, not technique, is this: our eyes enjoy seeing stuff. Given the choice, all things being equal, many things they're not equal, all things being equal, our eyes would rather yes see than no see. In other words, our eyes would rather, given the choice, our eyes would rather see stuff than see the not stuff. I know I'm putting it in a rather strange way. Our eyes get a kick out of seeing stuff. That's closely related to, that's good. That might be enough right there. Closely related to my definition of art. I have a definition of art. Every time I say this, I think about my dear old art professors rolling over in their graves. If they're dead yet, I don't know. A definition of art. Here it is. You ready? And I'm adamant about this. This is my definition. Not likely. It took me 40 years to hammer it out. And I'm not going to relinquish it quickly. I might relinquish it, but not because of somebody who's thought about it for 20 minutes. Okay, here's my definition of art. Stuff that's made to look at. Period. So you could say, well, traffic signs, they're made to look at. No. They have an auxiliary, secondary, utilitarian purpose. No, I'm talking art is stuff that's made to look at. Period. Now, if you think about that very much, you will realize, well, why I don't consider very much of modern or contemporary art, in fact, to be art at all. Because they have a very different definition. By their own admission, they would not disagree with this assessment. Modern art is stuff that's made to think about. And in my book, that's not art, that's thinking, propaganda, perhaps, all kinds of other stuff. But anyway, so art is stuff that's made to look at. Okay? Now, definition number 2, what is good art? Again, my professors take a second roll in their graves at the hubris of somebody having the nerve to even consider defining good art. Well, here it is. Art, stuff that's made to look at, period. Good art is stuff that's made to look at, period. That people enjoy looking at. Oh, you knew that's a cop-out, right? That is a cop-out. But it does get us going in the right direction. Now the question is, what is it that people like looking at? There's the rub. That's for millennia, artists have tried to nail that down. And I certainly don't have it nailed down, but I am inclined to think that there are, in fact, guidelines, principles, and so forth. By the way, the elements of design, there's 7 of them. Line, shape, texture, value, composition. I think there's 7 of them. Line, shape, color, design, value, texture. I'm missing something. Then there are principles of design. Okay, I'm irritating myself. Here, come on, just a minute. Let's Google this. Let's look this up here real quick. Because I hate to throw you that far off. Let's just see what my handy dandy Google will say here. And I can't talk it into this phone. That's another story. Elements of design. Oh, elements of design. That's fine. Line, shape, form, line, shape, composition, color, texture, space, value. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's find another list. Elements of design. Point. Line, shape, form, texture, color, value, space. Space, by space, they mean composition. Okay. So maybe I spoke to, again, how many is that? That's 8, but they call point. I never heard point as listed as an element of design, but I see their point. I see their point. But you got the list anyway, right? Okay, that's close enough. Line, shape, value, design, texture. I might have missed one there. Do understand, please, do understand that list, I'm convinced, was derived post priori. That is, big word. That means in the course of human development. You can even say human evolution if you want. In the course of human development, somebody somewhere, some caveman, I'm being silly about that part, somebody, some artist, somebody decided to try to make something artistic. And at some point or other, he or she stumbled upon some degree of effectiveness. That is, his friends or acquaintances or fellow tribesmen or whatever it may be, sort of liked looking at the things that this person had created. I'm thinking in my mind, I'm not going back to caveman, that's ridiculous. Let's go back just to the Ptolemies of Egypt, because we have, in fact, some of their artwork still in existence. And some of it, you know, portrait of Queen Nefertiti. There's actually one that comes to mind in particular, a portrait of I think a slave or something, or not a nobleman, just an ordinary person. And it is quite fetching. It's like, whoa, that's a nice painting of a young man. Nice form, nice rendering, you know, most first semester, whatever this means, first semester portrait students would be quite happy to render a human being face, as well as this painting that dates to, 1500, 2500 BC, something. I don't know what the numbers are, but way back, So at some point, somebody somewhere, I will say rather accidentally, created some artwork that people sort of like to look at. Certainly by the time it came down to the Greeks, to the Athenians and so forth, there were plenty of philosophical people around, ready and willing to think about stuff. And one of the things, now I wasn't there, but I feel quite strongly as an artist, this is the way it happened. Somebody created something first of all, and then some philosopher or art historian or art analysis person looked at the thing that had been created, that people enjoyed looking at it, and tried to figure out why are people enjoying looking at this? And they came up with these elements of design. Like, well, would you look at here? This painting that people are like, it has a variety of colors and shapes and lines and values and so forth. So maybe human beings, people like looking at objects that have different colors, different textures, different shapes, different values. You see, I think that's how it worked. It's not like somebody first came up with a list of principles of design, and then artists began trying to, well, look, Ole says here we're supposed to use lots of shapes. Let's add some shapes in here. That's not how it happened. No, it was post priori. It was not a priori. The list of elements followed good art. It didn't create good art. Anyway, so the question, well, my answer, what is good art? Again, my professors, if God rests their souls, they turn over in their grave at the nerve of somebody trying to define good art. So you're not really supposed to define things like this. You're just supposed to sit around and smoke and drink and talk about how groovy it is. But in fact, it turns out that almost all pieces of art that human beings do in fact enjoy looking at follow a number of guidelines, could use the word, but principles. They fall into certain categories. They all have identifiable composition, like the one that I just gave a while ago, that the major either light or dark shapes can be described with one word, okay? So once we learn that that's one of the principles of good art, then we can do a priori. Then we can say, here's a rule. We might consider that good paintings have this and that and thus and so. And that is certainly the way I operate. I have been debating within my heart, soul, mind for decades now. Is beauty a thing, or is beauty simply a subjective, inner, invisible feeling inside the breast of every human being? Or is beauty a thing? And I've gone both ways on this. It is a good question. Both answers can make a very good argument. Like, does beauty exist if no human being is there to observe it? Can it still be described as possessing? Or good question, good question. But anyway, in the last several months, I've been inclined to come down on the objective side of the equation. And again, that would drive a lot of philosophers berserk. But that doesn't stop me much, because I is a hobby philosopher myself, so I'm not horribly intimidated by people who are philosophers. Besides, now I'm older than most of them. Let me do some real quick blue over here. Anyway, so I'm inclined to think, so what is good art? It's art that people enjoy looking at. And it just so happens that the art that people enjoy looking at does, more often than not, tend to demonstrate or model these principles. Principles that I talk about all the time. The other book I'm writing, which is probably not going to be a book, it's going to be a video series, but it is The Breakable Laws of Painting. Just in case any of you are wondering, well, how arrogant is this guy? Let me tell you. David Mercer, are you there, my friend? I'm being a little bit facetious, being arrogant. Here's a question. Here's a thought experiment. Do you think computers, artificial intelligence, do you think computers could ever be programmed to create beautiful artwork? I'm talking beautiful here, not ugly or expressive, but beautiful. Could that ever happen? And part of my brain goes, heck no, that'll never happen. Could never be. You cannot. It's an art. It's not a science. But my answer may surprise you. Won't surprise you now because I just said that. But in fact, I do think that it is quite conceivable that computers could be programmed to create truly beautiful paintings. I mean, like Oil Painters of America, beautiful paintings. Wow. Now, I'm not going to hold my breath. I won't see it in my lifetime. It doesn't matter if I'm wrong. I don't mind being wrong. Just a thought experiment. But here's what I think, that if a bunch of computer geeks got together and said, we want to create a computer program that could create beautiful art, one of the people they would want to talk to would be me. Somebody like me is what I really mean. In other words, somebody who believes that there are actual breakable laws of painting. And that's the way my book is, the way this material is set up. It's like, you want to create a beautiful painting? Do this, 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 and this. But of course, every one of those thises can be broken too. So it's not simple. All the principles can be violated. Okay, I'm getting a little carried away here with my my last layer of acrylics. Okay, if you will hang on for just a minute, as if I can make any of you hang on. I understand what happens. Never mind. Okay, I'm going to step back here out of camera range here, and just look at the painting and say, yeah, I think I'm close enough. Whew. Okay, that means, so let me look at your comments, and then we'll wrap this up. What time is it? Yeah, I'll continue painting this afternoon, but I'll start a separate broadcast. So thanks, guys. Let me see what you guys have seen. Bruno. Hey, look. Look, there are figures. Thank you. They appear, Marcus says. Mark, I take it you're saying they'd be keen to have an online painters forum. I hope so. Michael, pastoral critiques. Great idea. Thank you. And Femox weighs in, I doubt artificial intelligence will want to create beautiful art. However, it could mimic a successful process and be successful. Yes, very good question. Very good. I by no means am going to argue that point. It's just my thinking. Korean artist. Hey, man. Welcome. I take it you're from Korea. Are you live in America or you still live in Korea? Yeah, David says the problem is computers are doing beautiful art. That's the problem. Yeah, exactly. Femox, I agree with your comments. Yeah. It's something to think about. I mean, those of you who are my age, it was almost unthinkable. Now, this wasn't computers writing music, although they've done that too. That would be a similar question, wouldn't it? But my goodness, the movie Chariots of Fire came out in 1982 or 3, something like that. It was the first major motion picture soundtrack that was entirely synthesizers, except for one piano. I mean, it was just about unthinkable. And yeah, at that point, all the instrumentalists should have said, wait a minute, we're about to lose our job. Because they were. Anyway, but the world goes on, and most of those instrumentalists now play synthesizers too, as I do as well. All right, I'm going to wrap this up right here. Thank you so much for your excellent comments. Any late coming? Yep. And so I'm going to stop here. I'm going to clean up all the acrylics, get rid of all this stuff, and break out the oils. Now, the first thing I'm going to do in the oil stage is glaze this entire thing. I'm probably not going to broadcast that just because at this size, it's going to take several minutes, and it's not that exciting. You'll see the effect of it when I bring you back in. But No need for you to watch me do that. It'll be whatever colors I want. Probably warm in here, cool up there, maybe, but I don't know. We're off to a good start, I think.